Europe, top 5 divisions, which is quite something, and then they are 16 points clear at the top of the table with a game in hand. Jurgen Klopp said afterwards, "We know about it and it's special, but I can't feel it." Jurgen Klopp not feeling all that jazzed up by the records or the achievements. As a team, they've kind of moved beyond that now.
Maybe, but it's the trophies in the end. There's lots of teams in history that have had brilliant runs. But if you blow it and don't get the trophies, then I'm not saying it means nothing, but it means much less.
That's what I mean. I think that's where he is. He's moved beyond He's moved beyond any marker that's not a trophy, which shows that Liverpool are a really good team. He knows they're a really good team.
Yeah, I mean we're in an era where statistics are thrown about all the time, and people talk about them almost as much as they talk about the game, the players, the tactics, whatever. But that is just a statistic. What's more important is the trophy, is doing it at the right times. You can win lots and lots of games. If you lose a final, people forget about it. So yeah, he's got that in his mind. He knows they're a right good team. I did hear a thing the other day, I don't know where I read it, it was yesterday, saying this makes Liverpool the greatest side ever in English football. And I think, well, that's pushing it a wee bit, because there's a lot of trophies to be won yet. Also, on top of that, you do have to ask the question, is the strength of the league as strong as it's ever been? You look at the power of Manchester City. I mean, it's great that they're overcoming Manchester City with such obvious ease. Leicester are having a good season, but you look at the rest of them, they're all weaker than they've been for a long time. So you have to take that into account. All that's just debating points. They're an extraordinarily good side. They deserve to win the league even this early. They probably will win the league, and if they do it by winning all the games between now and the end of the season, and breaking records points, that's brilliant. But it's secondary. What
did you make of Spurs' efforts to halt Liverpool's run?
Just looking at Spurs, I mean, obviously without Kane, it's really difficult. I mean, that period of time where, and it was a good long period of time where you had Dele Alli in great form, Kane, Son, and Eriksen as well. And then you look at it, Dele Alli's had been up and down since that brilliant first season or two. Kane not been there. Son's quite a changed player at the moment. He seems to have his angry head on more often than he used to have in the past. And Eriksen is a shadow of what he was. So you put all that together, and the team will start looking around each other and thinking, are we good enough to be anywhere near the likes of a Liverpool or Manchester City? Answer, no. Are they good enough to be where? Are they good enough to be really challenging for the top 4? Probably not there either. Jose Mourinho will just say to everyone that listens when he talks to the board, particularly in January, got to do a massive change here. Got to make lots and lots of changes, and he have lots of ideas and lots of players that he wants to bring in. Thing is, it's easy to say that, really hard to do it, and particularly when you look at Spurs look like, to some degree, a fading force. I mean, I was at the game they played against Middlesbrough just the other week there, and they should have wiped the floor with Middlesbrough, player for player. They're miles ahead, yet Middlesbrough came back and fought and battled them, and it was no surprise in the end that they didn't actually get the win, and that was the last thing that he needed at that point in time. So what did they do against Liverpool? Well, they tried a method. The method in the end didn't look likely to work. It's only a 1-goal defeat, and in some ways you can walk out with your head held high after that, because there's plenty of other teams that can hammer Liverpool, hammer Spurs, or hammer anyone if you are Liverpool.
That moment on the horizon where Jose Mourinho does go and look for money is the one that we talked about when he first got the job. And it will test the promises that Daniel Levy and Mourinho made to each other, and I suspect that's where things will get very messy for Spurs. So that is imminent. In the second half, I must say, actually, it struck me watching the full 45 minutes, given that Liverpool were only 1-0 up, at times they were so sloppy in possession, lost the ball, were almost giving up Spurs chances. Like Spurs had some really good moments late on, and yeah, it really did. And it was one of the few times I've looked at Liverpool this season and thought, God, they do look just a little bit tired and jaded at the moment. I'm not saying it's going to be any great problem for them, but it struck me as one of the few times where you've actually seen the very natural effects of all the exertions.
I've seen it quite a few times. I mean, I've been at Anfield a few times and I thought, well, this isn't the best team I've ever seen in my life, but they're going to win the game. They've found a method to win the game. And the fact that they've got so many match winners in so many different positions, and that's not just the 3 attackers, that's, the full-backs flying forward, Van Dijk turning up when he has to turn up. They've got a belief in each other, they're capable of doing it. It's a lovely thing to have in a team. Very few of us have had the pleasure of having that, looking around and thinking, yeah, he'll do it this week, or he'll do it this week. and they've all got that possibility of doing that. And they've got Klopp as well. The other thing on top of it, they don't lose many goals, and if you don't lose many goals, there's a kind of relaxation to that as well. There were, as you say, a couple of moments, but at that point they were ahead, and had Spurs actually managed to get one of them, there would have been a last 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of hammering on the door. And how many times have Liverpool, when they've needed to do it end of the game this season, they've got it, and so that's why I don't think there is any great panic, even when they're not playing brilliantly. If they've got ahead, and particularly, if you get ahead at Anfield, I know that was down at Spurs ground, but, you just get a kind of belief about it now, an expectation about it now. It is the way it used to be at Manchester United a few years ago under Fergie, where 5 minutes to go, when you're thinking, well, that's an eternity. It's a likelihood that that's going to change. And they've just got that about them. It's brilliant to watch. And, you're looking at Manchester City, and they've been a bit up and down. But maybe the fact that they had that hammering of Aston Villa at the weekend there, it's maybe made Liverpool think a little bit, right, OK, don't take it too easy quite yet. But they need to get 3 revolvers and a couple of machine guns and shoot themselves in every single foot if they're going to blow this one.
I know you were at Old Trafford. I'll come to that in just 1 second. It's briefly worth remarking on one point that every player instinctively knows, and Theo Walcott decided to test the theory just to be absolutely sure. And so when Lewis Dunk yanked him and clearly gave away a penalty, and Theo Walcott didn't go down and he didn't get a penalty, then that was just a little message to everybody again that, yes, you still need to go down. Even Ancelotti was saying, if he didn't go down, that makes the referee's job quite difficult. It was such a blatant penalty. It was actually a pretty good test case for saying to the referee, I've been pulled, do I have to dive here?
I think it's one of the worst decisions this season. I mean, I know there's been lots of decisions and lots of anger and lots of comment around, but you're absolutely right. In spending a lot of time trying to get diving out of the game and trying to make sure the players stay on their feet, but give them the penalty when it's a penalty kick. And it's as clear can be. And a real disappointment that when they had the opportunity to really show that all the systems are working well, and if players stay on their feet, they'll still get it. It couldn't have been clearer. It was a massive, massive disappointment for the game that they got that wrong. And you have nothing against Walcott. So Walcott next time, if he does just fall down and lets his legs buckle, even though he's just been tugged in the shirt, can he blame him now? And that's disappointing. That's devastating that that's the case. But, the players take the blame, but you've got to say the officials were at fault this time, and they're part of the blame if they don't give those decisions.
Especially in the era of VAR. You could understand if somehow the referee missed it, but in the era of VAR, and it was so blatant, it's inexplicable.
I'd love to talk to some... A couple of people I've talked to have been officials have just held their head in their hands and thought, well, that was it. That was the chance. You've missed it. Because everyone else is going to say, well, just point to that every time now. And I mean, one of the things I wanted VAR for a number of things to get decisions right, but one of the things was to stop diving. And there you were. There's your chance. Now, two ways you can stop diving. One, look at it retrospectively, and then you can card them or fine them or, ban them for a game. You can do that with VAR. You could do that. That's easy to bring in. And the other way is to say, right, OK, we can see that foul and we can see you're trying to be honest, but honestly, I'm devastated by it. The only thing I can possibly say is, look, it's still early days season with VAR. You need to learn everything. You need to learn where the strengths of it are and where it can be used. And that was the time when the officials failed. So that's not VAR's problem. That was the officials' problem.
You were at Old Trafford, as I said. They beat Norwich 4-0. A relief, I would suspect, for a lot of Manchester United players to beat a team beneath them comprehensively and not to labour and struggle. Now, if you can't beat Norwich, who are one victory from 17, then things are really serious. Rashford has stolen the headlines. Paddy marked his 200 United appearance. That means he's the 4th youngest player to reach that landmark for the club. Only Best, Whiteside and Giggs have bettered him, so that's pretty impressive. That's his 19th goal this season, Rashford. He is still so young at 22. Where is he? Where are Manchester United at the moment? What did you see? Sometimes you see a bit more when you're live at a game.
Well, you're absolutely right about Norwich. They had nothing to offer. They didn't have Pukki up front because he's injured as well. And they had a youngster in who really wasn't capable of doing anything. But then again, he wasn't getting any help.
Actually, can I interrupt you in briefly? Because we're interested in him. He's Adam Ida. He scored a hat-trick last week in the FA Cup and he's Irish and he's 18. So for us, we were all looking forward to him maybe ransacking Old Trafford and further proving his credentials. Did he see much of the game? No?
You found out nothing about him in that game. Absolutely nothing. And it wasn't his fault. If you're playing against generally 2 centre-backs and a sitting midfielder in front of you, and none of your players within 50 yards of you, and every ball's been wrapped up above your head. How are you going to find out? Now, the bits I watched him against Preston when he scored the hat-trick, he looked really sharp. He was always playing on the shoulder. In this occasion, after 10 minutes, he realised he couldn't play on the shoulder and get behind because he's got great pace as well. He was coming deep. Well, there was no point in that because you just walk into traffic. And, you know, a lot to learn, a lot to ask for him, but you didn't find anything out. So I wouldn't put any of the blame, and I was doing the commentary, I didn't put any of the blame towards him, you know, and he kept on working, and he kept them pretty honest at the back. You know, they had to keep themselves together. They couldn't turn off at any point. So, you know, he kept them occupied, but no more than that. But, you know, he's a hope, and the technical sides of it, he scored the hat-trick against Preston, but also the technical sides of where he played in that game on the shoulders and willing to get in behind. I would say he's quite an exciting prospect, if not quite ready yet for that level.
Okay, so Rashford and United then?
Well, the Rashford one's amazing. You know, we've talked for, you know, a couple of years, 2 or 3 years about Rashford, and I've been like a broken record. Just don't play him centre forward. Don't play that guy centre forward. He's not a centre forward. And there was a period where everyone was saying that was his position. I'm saying absolutely not. You know, he's unbelievable coming from wide attacking areas like Thierry Henry used to do. And in this game, it was amazing to see. He was doing flicks, turns, pieces of control, audacious little skills, but all done with a purpose. Pace is unbelievable, totally and utterly in control of himself. He isn't a young man anymore. He is now a seasoned professional, and you don't look at him in those terms, you know, he's a great young talent for the future. It's not that anymore. He is now the real deal. He was brilliant on the day. He was by a distance the best player in the field. And it was great for him that he's now got Martial in front of him, who's quite intelligent, moves really, really well. And he got help from various places, and it was good play. Pereira worked really, really hard, created bits of space for him. He wasn't getting a lot of help from behind him. The fullback coming up from behind him was helping him now and again. But in actual fact, he didn't need any help. He was absolutely shredding that defence. And halfway through the game, I was thinking to myself, wait, okay, is this it then? So you got Rashford left. Martial was a very good player. James wasn't playing in the day, but you know he's got an amazing pace as well. Greenwood come on at the end. Now, any Man United fan who's watched a bit of Greenwood, he's probably a more natural striker, goal scorer than Rashford. It's astonishing to say. He probably is a more natural striker, scorer. Because every time you get the ball, he's one of those guys you think, right, I know you're 20 yards out, but this is a 50-50 chance this is in the back of the net. Every time he gets it with power, he gets it with pace, he gets it into the corners, he hits it really early. He's really special. So you're looking at it and thinking, actually, this could be really good. And then I thought, actually, I was at Manchester United playing Arsenal like 14 days before or something, and they were rank. They were absolutely awful. They just didn't look like a team at all. So you're right. Yes, they look good. They'll look good at home. Give those guys space, and it'll be fantastic. Are they the finished article? Miles away. Miles away from me, yeah, and to get to the upper echelons.
It's such a curious time for the club. I don't know, did you pick up on the atmosphere there, but there were loud chants of "We want the Glazers out," and there was lots of frustration aimed at Ed Woodward. And I was reading yesterday, last season was their lowest average attendance since 2010. And it's due to be slightly lower again this season. And even for the City game, the Carabao Cup game, there were 7,000 empty seats. And that was after they had realised loads of season ticket holders weren't going to show up, and they dumped a load on general sale for £66 sterling, thank you very much. And there were still 7,000 empty seats for a game against City. So even at 3-4-0 up yesterday, the fans, there was, you know, the natives were restless, and it wasn't aimed at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but it was very much, it seemed, aimed at the Glazers and Ed Woodward. So it's still not really a happy picture there when you're at Old Trafford for a game.
Yeah, no, because Manchester United fans, like many other fans, know their stuff. You know, they absolutely say, yeah, very well, we're winning here. But we don't forget the fact that, yes, fifth, best of the rest at the moment, fifth, you know, just outside that top four. They look as if they're going to charge into it, you know. No, they don't. You know, it doesn't help the fact that you basically get the entire midfield missing at the moment. Had you got, as we say, Pogba and McTominay fit, then fine, it might have looked absolutely great. It might have been fine. But they know that, well, the cup game's a good case in point. They know that they're going to not play a lot of the guys from the first team, possibly. So are you going to go and spend that amount of pounds going to see a team that's going to be almost certainly a kind of half reserve team? And considering that reserve team is basically a bunch of kids, and a bunch of guys that aren't good enough and aren't going to be good enough for a Manchester United team. I understand it. Everything's relative, though. I mean, the place is a big old place. There's a hell of a lot of people in there. There's still, I don't know if they are, but they're probably still the highest attendance in the league, you know, if you average out over the season. So, I mean, it's not disastrous for them, but everybody knows they're a long way away from where Manchester United should be. And considering everyone knows Arsenal aren't the force they should be this season, Spurs aren't the force they should be this season, and they've got ahead, and they've got obviously Leicester, they've got Manchester City, they've got Liverpool, but they've got Chelsea, who they should be up with Chelsea. Chelsea should be in the same sort of trajectory with the changes they've made, but Chelsea seem to be a good distance ahead of them just now.
What Eddie Howe, 11 years into the Bournemouth job, did not need yesterday was Watford, who change manager every other week, turning up with their latest version, who's doing very, very well and beating them comprehensively. That is Bournemouth's 9th defeat in 11 league matches. They're second from bottom. No team has scored fewer goals in the Premier League this season, even though, as Howe himself said, traditionally they've always had an ability to score goals under his stewardship. I presume Bournemouth will keep their heads here and recognise that Eddie Howe is entitled to a wobble. Now, this could be relegation-inducing wobble. What's your sense of where he is at Bournemouth?
I feel really sorry for him. They, I would argue, have had the worst, if everything's comparable, you know, that slightly smaller squad, but they've had the worst injuries to the most important players this season than anyone. And the goals have completely and utterly dried up for them. You know, and they're probably rushing players back as well. So it's not gone well for them. But I agree. I mean, I think if they do go down, it's a bit like Burnley. You wouldn't sack Daesh because you know that this is a small club. I mean, if you've never, some of the people listen, you would never have been to Bournemouth Stadium. It's teeny. It's really small.
Yeah,
it's
12,000 people.
Place. They're not a big old club. I mean, I used to play for Tranmere Rovers years ago. They've got a bigger stadium. It's just a bigger looking thing. It just looks like a nice little cottage industry down there. And you have to keep that in mind, you know, when you're comparing it. I mean, I'm turning up one week at Anfield and then the next week at the Bridge and then the next week at Old Trafford. And then you turn up at Bournemouth and you're going, are you real? Are you serious? This isn't the same competition, surely. They have done phenomenally well to do as well as they've done under Eddie Howe. If they go down, I hope and expect they'll stick with them. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do because, you know, the basics are there, everything's there. I don't think if they do go down, they'll lose a whole bunch of players either. Yeah. I think they'll, you know, just move one or two, keep the ones they've got, and they'll probably be good enough to come back up again. I think they are one of the clubs that would stick by that. But isn't it interesting that, you know, rewind back 6 months, no more than that, and everyone's talking about Eddie Howe, next Man United manager or Arsenal manager or whatever. It's extraordinary. That's why managers take these, you know, that's why they do a Brendan Rodgers. When the chance comes, you just take it. Because you just know that you can be a dud 3 months later in everyone's eyes, when in actual fact, you ain't a dud. Circumstances change. Yeah,
God, it's such a difficult industry. Very, very last one, and you got to keep this brief. I'll be in big trouble. The clock is against us. Aguero passed Henry. He is so underappreciated, Aguero. We're going to do a piece on him later on. Even by myself, I underappreciate him. I would still take Thierry Henry over Aguero in a heartbeat.
It's because of the way he looks and the way he plays.
Is he not just a better player as well?
I'm a better player. I'll take you even further back than him. Gerd Müller. It was a guy who used to play for Germany millions of years ago. Yeah. Stocky wee guy, used to score a lot of scruffy goals and just wasn't pleasant on the eye to look at as a footballer. Didn't matter. Just look at numbers with him. They were absolutely unbelievable, and if a chance came, he generally scored it. So I'm absolutely with Aguero. I think he's a phenomenon, an absolute phenomenon. And he will not look as elegant as Thierry Henry. And I'm not saying he's a better player. It doesn't matter. In that position, it's the goals. And he scores so many goals, and he is an amazing player. I'm just delighted to watch him. Having said that, like yourself, I'll go and see Manchester City. I'm looking forward to seeing Silva. I'm looking forward to seeing De Bruyne. About 6th or 7th down the line, I'll say, oh yeah, and Aguero as well. Aguero, yeah. So unfair. You're right. It's so unfair.
It is very unfair. Listen, we've got to leave it there for this week. We'll talk to you next.
One last thing.
Yes, please. Yeah, go on. Oh, hey! Radio listeners, Pat Nevin is holding up his Irish passport.
Yes, I finally got it. I was talking about it last week. It's me. I've got it, so I am chuffed as anything.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, welcome aboard.
Nice to be here.
Good man.
citizenship a couple of weeks ago, passport now, I'm coming back.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Good man. Hey, listen, brilliant. We'll talk to you about that again at some stage, but we got to run in the meantime. Pat, thanks so much.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
This week on The Home Show, Christmas past, how Ireland celebrated the festive season back in the 18th century. We'll have last-minute gift ideas for the design lover in your life, and it's the season for some festive cheer. Are drinks trolleys making a glamorous comeback, or is it a bit only fools and horses?
The Home Show with Sinead Ryan on News Talk.
Download and subscribe to the podcast now at newstalk.com and on the News Talk app.
Every bumpy road, every bit of weather, every school run, every moment of reflection, every
It's rush hour on Friday. What did you expect?
little disagreement, every tight squeeze, everything about a Skoda is made for Ireland.
The Sport Ireland campus Blanchardstown is the home of Irish sport, not just for our athletes, but for you and the community. For families, check out our kids camps, sport academies and birthday parties. For adults, why not join our newly refurbished gym with a 50-metre swimming pool, or book one of our world-class indoor or outdoor facilities, including our athletics track, sports pitches and courts. And for companies, check out our team building days, conference facilities and events. All this and more at sportirelandcampus.ie.
It's called